Thank you. Thank you. Welcome very, very much to Conversation. It's a pleasure to welcome to the program a dear friend of mine and of the world, and his name is Steve Neskis. He's in Virginia Beach, and we're talking to him by Skype, and I'm very happy to welcome. And you see here we have a picture of two people that he and I are very taken with. One over my right shoulder is Ray Kurzweil, the famous follower of all things cyber. One reads the implications of exponential increasing capability of all things cyber perhaps better than anyone. And then Peter Diamante's over my left shoulder, who's written the book Abundance, and they have teamed up in a certain sense. They started the Singularity University. So that's on the background because I think Stephen might have a thing or two to say about those two. So, Stephen, welcome so very much to Conversation. Hope we can get this in. You're looking good, man. You're looking
Thank you.
you're looking like a
I feel
plutocrat,
good.
right?
It's a springtime, and
Yeah.
love is in the air, and
Yeah, okay.
new
So
things
here
are happening.
we're off to the races now and everything. So I think the fair thing to do is we got that picture, you know the one
I know
of
the one.
Peter and Ray. But why don't you just take a couple of minutes to share your we go way back. That might be a good place. How far back do we go, Stephen? It was
Well, we
Richie
did the
Havens'
interview.
time, and
I got to meet you, I guess, the first time you interviewed Timothy Leary.
yeah,
It was your birthday, and I was hunting down Richie Havens to do a project with him.
great guy,
Eh,
Richie Havens. Yeah,
Wonderful fellow.
yeah.
And it was part of this awakening project that I've been working on for a few years
Hmm. Yeah,
since that time.
you're still working, and it's coming to a focus. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, right now it's really coming to a head, and it's the timing is pretty spectacular in that sense because we're going into that exponential growth, and the technology is really at a point where the citizens can utilize it to develop things that will free them from the mundane, the things that, well, let's start with Bucky Fuller. I mean, we've been going back a long way with talk shows, and you interviewed Bucky Fuller back in the day.
Well,
What year was that?
that was way, way, way back. That was in 1974. He was inspirational to me, and he remains inspirational to me. And I
Hmm.
just cited to Seth Adler, who we just did a program about Left Forum, that Fuller is probably, as far I don't know, people differ, but I've talked widely on the intellectual spectrum, and I think if there's any one person who is almost just absolutely universally respected, with all respect for the intellectual integrity of his input and take, he's passed, of course, is Buckminster Fuller. He was a
Absolutely.
real scholar, a comprehensive systems thinker that all who want to aspire to that kind of thinking was. But that was in 1974 we did that program with him. Yeah, we're just getting some of the first equipment that was coming off the boat from China to make television programming. Anyway, I ramble, so
Well, no, no, no. This is important stuff because people don't realize, the younger ones especially,
yeah.
how really chaotic and archaic the civilization was 50 years ago, 60 years ago. I mean, we didn't have much. I mean, things were done pretty fundamentally on a very primitive level. In fact, one of the first interviews we were doing, and I was at that time a young videographer working with you. We
Yeah.
did Rabbi Idome, which people can
Oh, yeah.
watch now, and he's very relevant now with the whole Israel situation.
Yeah. Yeah, we had to go out
And
in Brooklyn to do that.
we did. We had
Yeah.
that 3/4 inch deck that was as
That's a
big as
heavy
most
sucker, yeah.
suitcases,
Yeah, right, right.
and you had to attach a camera to it.
Yeah.
So now you have
A little
you
cell
know
phone. Yeah, right.
a
Right.
phone like this, which
Yeah.
is your special iPhone here, but it's smartphone we
Yeah,
call it.
right. Amazing. Yeah.
And on this in 1983, if you had to purchase every device that's on it now
Yeah.
at 1985 prices, it would cost you $900,000.
Is that all? Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah. It's
so now you're
amazing.
getting
Yeah.
it for about a
Yeah.
grand. So it's quite amazing
Yeah.
uh, how exponentially things are growing, at this
He
particular
he
time.
he raised that issue very decidedly. I would say the major person who's done that yeoman's work intellectually of understanding the implications of exponential is over my right shoulder now, Ray Kurzweil. But Fuller brought it up. I mean, it was intrinsic to his thinking, but
Hmm.
he had a rather larger context that his major contribution was the work that showed that humanity may have transcended material scarcity. He had a
Right, right.
chart
It's a
to that
big
effect.
thing, and in a
Well, yeah.
qualitative way, not just a quantitative way.
Mm.
And the thing was that the technology didn't quite catch up to where he was. He was definitely a futurist, like I am, and a systems thinker. And he would say that we're on spaceship Mother Earth hurling through the universe, and that's something that people don't understand. We think that the sun is just right here, and we're just going around the circle, and everything is very, just automatic and kind of complacent. But actually, what we're doing, we have this Milky Way galaxy, and
Mm-hmm.
we're on one of those little arms
Mm-hmm.
of the Milky Way galaxy, and we're hurling through the universe at 200 million miles an hour, being pulled by the sun. And we're actually going this way.
Uh,
So people don't understand how non-static we are. We are just hurling through this universe, and through good design, we can take care of the mundane, so we can do the important work, which is the stuff that we're doing now, raising children, and using what I think is one of the most great things that human beings have, and that's the imagination, to be able to conceive of things and actually visualize them into reality.
yeah. That was famous song Imagine. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's true. And that we live in maybe a time of qualitative transformation and that sort of thing. But anyway, so that was interesting. We met way back then and we've
way
been
back then.
touching base all along and everything like that. And you're getting very interested in a lot of those ideas that we've been sort of investigating off and on and everything. And
Hmm.
so it's good to be able to touch base with you. We got to. So anyway, that was really good. That was back. Where was I? I interviewed Timothy Leary. Is that it?
Yeah,
And
Timothy Leary.
what did we played the tape or something?
Yeah, you played the
And
tape.
and oh
Yeah.
and what's um he came to see that tape to the house, right?
No, what
What
happened
happened?
was
What happened? I don't.
specifically was
Mm,
okay, and this is how, I believe a thought is a tangible form of mass. I'm going to set this up a little bit.
all right.
Once you project a thought, if you keep it in tune, it's like a radio station. If you don't change your channel and you're thinking 91.2, the point, rock and roll, if you stay on that channel, you're going to continually get that. Now, if you change it to country, you're going to get country. Well, I had this premonition that when I was on my Hobie Cat, I was at the beachfront and I was a restaurateur.
What's a Hobie cat?
I'll explain.
Okay.
At a restaurant at the beachfront, and Hobie Cat is a catamaran. Okay, it
Oh
has two
yeah. Okay.
pontoons,
Yeah.
and I'm sitting there just enjoying life. Every week a beautiful lady would come in, and I was surfing, and it was a lot of fun back in those days.
Yeah. Right.
Just
Right. Right.
having a good time. And all of a sudden, I'm hearing New York City going bankrupt. And I said, how can the financial capital of the freaking world go bankrupt?
Uh huh.
And I said, man, this world is going to hell in a handbag. I'm going to the islands and hanging out and just enjoy life. And a little voice said, weren't you born in New York? And I went, yeah. And he says, weren't you part of that peace and love movement? I went, yeah. Why don't you go find out why?
Mm.
So I did. And what happened was somebody came in my restaurant looking for my brother.
You had a
And
restaurant down there in
yeah,
Virginia
at the
Beach. It's a
beachfront.
beautiful town, incidentally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is a
Yeah.
beautiful town.
Yeah.
People come there to have a vacation, spend their 2 weeks of their hard-earned money and their vacation time with their families, and we basically served them. We
Yeah.
would say, we're the Neskis family. We're here to serve you. This is your home,
Mm.
away from home.
Mm.
So I was in a party atmosphere. I was lucky. I didn't get most of the problems, so I enjoyed being a restaurateur at the beachfront. So somebody was looking for my brother. He went to school with him. He says, I'm sorry I missed him, but I said, please have some breakfast. And the cat goes, hey man, I can't do this project, but you can make $1 million on it. And he pops this little airplane and he throws it around and he catches it. It's like the first stunt plane that was created. It was called a Dipper-Do. And he goes, this guy is right in Hackensack, New Jersey, outside of New York City, just right outside of New York City. I went, here's the project that's taking me to New York City.
Mm.
Okay, so there I am setting that up. Now, there was a lot of little vignettes. I was for the first date at 72nd and Riverside Drive, and then
Yeah.
71st Street and West End Avenue. When I was there at 71st Street and West End Avenue, that's when John Lennon was assassinated.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was
Yeah.
in there kind of when New York City wasn't alive. It was dead. People had run off to the suburbs, and basically people were giving buildings if you would just start renting them and occupying them.
What was that? Was after the bankruptcy? And what year are you talking about now?
I guess that was the late 70s, early 80s,
Late
right?
70s. Oh,
Yeah,
okay. You
like
weren't talking
70.
about the time of Woodstock.
No.
69, 70. Yeah.
Yeah, no, this
Yeah.
was the late 70s when
Yeah.
everything was just had fallen apart
I see. Right.
completely.
Okay. A lot of
And
property had been abandoned and almost.
right,
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
and so all of a sudden I was living with this girl
Mm.
down in Tribeca, and it was on a high rise. You remember the high rise, right?
Yeah. It looked
Yeah.
out
So
over the New York Harbor. It was like something else, man.
yeah,
It was really great
they
place.
couldn't get anybody to occupy these
Yeah. Right.
buildings,
Right.
right?
Uh-huh.
So my girlfriend goes, "Hey, you want to live in here?" And I said, "Sure." He says, "Well, if you become subtenant to your best friend there and become head of household when they leave because they have children, you can move in here."
Yeah.
I said, "Yeah, but there's a 20-year waiting list." And he said, "That's why there's a 20-year waiting list
Yeah.
because so many subtenants became head of household, which they
Uh-huh.
closed the loophole." But I was lucky; I was able to get into uh, Tribeca,
That
trendy
place was
Tribeca,
great. You had a car. You had a very fancy car. You thought you might become like an Uber, before Uber was hot.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
and you had that, and you would be able to come there, and it was like some sort of a plutocrat. You would drive around in this thing like a limousine,
It
and
was a
you not
Lincoln
only that,
Town
when you
Car, right?
approached the building,
Yeah.
you used to go beep beep, and the door would open into a place where you had a parking spot, and you would put and it would close behind you, and then you get out of that and you go up in the elevator to your place. That would be worth about $10,000 in New York to have a garage like that, and
Oh,
you
I
were
know.
living the life of a Rockefeller.
Well, I got lucky, okay?
Yeah.
And the point being is that if I didn't visualize that and I didn't keep that in mind, I would have blown it off and probably never had those synergies together.
Well,
And
you
that's
were living it. What do you mean if you blew it off? You mean if you
well, if I
didn't pay
didn't
any
pay
attention?
attention to it, if I'd said,
You'd pay conscious attention to the significance of that to you and the universe?
yes, that was
That's
so
some
important.
heavy-duty thinking, brother.
I
Yeah,
know
yeah.
it's learning to be connected to the whole symbiotic relationship of Mother Earth. There is a vibration, and some people, create a spiritual connotation to it, and many different aspects of spirit, from Christianity to Muslim to Israeli, and
Let me
so
see,
you
I've
have
never thought of this, but you got a name like Neskis. I guess you
right.
must be like Scandinavian or something, right?
I am Greek, just like
Yeah.
Peter is.
I'm shocked. Yeah,
And
yeah.
Peter
Oh,
has this beautiful book,
yeah,
Abundance, and
yeah,
his follow-up book called Bold.
yeah,
He is a Greek from the island of Lesbos, and
yeah.
I'm a Greek from the island of Cyprus.
Right, you are.
I'm
Right,
first
right.
generation here,
Yeah.
and I come from a long line of entrepreneurs.
A lot of
My
philosophers in that line,
Yeah, I
like
had some preachers
Aristotle, and just a
in my
couple lesser
lineage and
nice
stuff like
lights.
that.
Yeah.
And they were deep thinkers in my
Mm.
family. And my dad's dad actually came to Staten Island and created one of the first diners in America,
How did
which
it
was
come? That's an American institution. The diner is a
yeah.
Greek diner, and they seem to be everywhere. Like, it's like an American institution, the Greek diner.
Well, it's just like anything else. We
Why
only
Greeks? Why not Irish or
I'll
something?
explain that. It's
Okay.
very simple.
No.
We only are a product of what we are shown. Okay,
Mm.
so apparently some Greeks started some restaurants and said, "Hey, I'm from your village. I can do that. If you can do that, I can do that." And that's why you see a segment of population like all the Indians do the newspaper routes and newspaper stands, and you start seeing these groups of people taking over different portions of business because their families are showing how to do it to other people in their families or villages and things of
Yeah,
this
yeah,
nature.
right, right.
So this is how that expression happened, So we're only a product of what we're exposed to,
Well,
and
there's
some
a
people get
truth
lucky
there
and think out of
somewhere.
the box and actually pursue knowledge. But most of us are only some of our experiences. So, you have somebody that is in a slum area and their families are all going to jail for some of the things are very stupid,
All too
like
common, yeah.
marijuana or
Yeah.
cannabis, which I should say. We don't say marijuana anymore in the cannabis movement. We just say cannabis because it's a beautiful healing herb. But and then they would go to jail. Their children didn't have anything else to look forward to, but oh, that's my college jail. So you get this this replicable kind of thing, that repetition, that people do what they get seen. So their father went to jail, their mother went to jail. I guess I'm going to jail. And this is what happens. They don't get any education. It's a dumbing down of America, and it starts to infiltrate into our music
That
and
that
gangster rap and
yeah.
all that. And it kind of stupefies people. That's the blow up side. Now the grow
Well,
up side is
that's
Peter
also what they
Diamandis,
that's
like
also what they call.
abundance. The future
Okay,
is
okay,
better
go talk.
than you think.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
if you walk into the light, and you start seeing what the potential is for our planet, then it becomes a completely different adventure into the experience of this planet
Could you
Earth that
spell
we
that
have.
out a little bit? What do you mean? What the potential of the planet is? The planet's been here, a few billion years and everything. What do you mean? Has the potential always been there, or latent, or nascent?
Well,
And then
I
it
don't know.
took.
I think it's always been there, and it's been progressing. That it would produce some type of intellectual um, uh, body of animal, and we are the human beings that have been graced that. But like the ancient Indians would say, you have two wolves that are in you. One is good and one is bad, and the child goes, "Well, which one wins?" And the Indian chief goes, "The one you feed." You know, so we can grow into a bunch of fear, which causes all this anarchy with terroristic type of tendencies, or we could work on abundance and have a qualitative change because we have enough. Technically, we have transcended scarcity. So we don't have a good design yet that will apply that potential into the reality. And
Could
that's,
could you
my
could you
fundamental body of
could
work,
you
what
say
I'm
that
doing.
fundamentally we have what? What did you say?
We have transcended scarcity.
Wait a minute. Say it again. No.
Yes, we have transcended
And when you say
scarcity.
we, you're talking about the whole of humanity?
Yes, we have
Okay.
now a capability, okay?
Capability, not the existing reality as we
Right,
look.
to
Yeah.
do that. But now
Uh-huh.
the real importance is how do you take it from capability
To
and put it
reality.
into the reality for society to enjoy what is already in the
Do
potential.
you think there's widespread understanding that we have? Well, I would add the word material, but
Hmm.
because the spiritual and that could be put into another pattern.
Sure.
But anyway, do you think that's understood by
No,
people,
no, not
much
at all.
less the leaders of the world? Fuller did understand that as the premier idea, comprehensive idea, I would submit, of the whole body of his work, that was the major philosophical thing that became practical reality in his thinking and that he would introduce to the world. But nobody ever thinks that or thinks that makes any sense other than some ranting coming out of Bellevue.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
you understand what I'm saying.
I
What you
actually
say, it
do.
comes trippingly off the tongue, but nobody can accept that because you can see that's crazy. There is,
I'm
there's
I'm
not
starting
nearly
to see
enough.
a
Yeah.
little bit of this, and I'll tell you, at NPR, which is the
Great. Yeah.
public radio stations that we
Yeah.
have, they are starting to talk about having a government official called the futurist, somebody that's going to think about what's going to happen in the future.
Uh-huh.
And this is slowly being integrated. What we don't have is our institutions
Yeah.
understanding these things. It should be written on every institution as a child walks in. We have transcended material scarcity.
I'd sign that. Put the petition out. I'll sign it. I'll sign it in
Yeah,
big bold letters, like
and welcome
Hancock.
to
Yeah.
abundance. The future is better than you think, and let's build the through good design a
Yeah.
better world that we can live in. And one of the main things that people haven't addressed is the financial mechanism. Um, we have, this thing called money that everybody jumps over the hoop to be able
I,
to
I, I,
accumulate so they can survive,
well,
at
I
least
would I
survive.
would agree with that. It's probably the major entity and part of the human condition that is more instrumental in shaping human behavior and institutions. I guess there's others, love and things and everything, but the major one, it seems to be, for good or ill or whatever, money.
Yeah, it's
That
economics because
really,
people I mean, that's how you accumulate large weapons of mass destruction, large, people to do your bidding, to buy corporations. Everybody uses this thing called money. Now, the question is, and the problem has been, um, for the masses, money hasn't been around. Okay, for a very few, it's always been there. The hierarchy. But
well, yeah.
and this has been a very big problem. I just heard on one of the comedy channels now on HBO, one of these the English fellow, I can't remember his name.
Oliver,
Oliver, yeah.
he's really funny sometimes, really
Yeah.
bitingly funny.
You know,
Yeah,
he
sometimes.
was over at the Comedy Central with
Yeah,
Jon Stewart,
yeah.
and he's taken over to the T. I mean, I didn't think he could do it. He could pull it off. I didn't think he had that talent, but now that I see him, and he's gotten really good. He has taken over, I think, Jon Stewart's whole persona, in that sense. But he was just talking about how cigarette companies have now, by law, taking countries to court and suing them. Now
Yeah,
they're like $40 billion
yeah,
war chest, and here they're taking a country that only has $3 billion
yeah.
war chest,
Right.
and they're saying you are
Cutting in on our profits. Yeah,
you're fundamentally messing with
profits.
our intellectual property, and you're defaming it by telling, putting an iron lung or something on there, and putting my name smaller. And this is the problem. Corporations now
I didn't
have,
get it about the iron lung and my name smaller. What is that? How does
well,
that
what they're
fit in?
doing is that in let's say these countries that want to stop smoking, they're showing a
Oh, I
picture
see. Yeah.
of an iron lung or
Oh, I see. All right.
a diseased eye or
Uh,
somebody that has cancer of the mouth, and then their name of the product is like this little
yeah.
small,
Yeah.
so they're actually taking them to court, and that's why a lot of people are upset about these new treaties that are coming around,
Yeah.
because
TPP.
corporations,
Yeah.
yeah, they're going to take you to court and sue you
Mhm.
because you're messing with their money.
With their profits
Yeah, yeah,
too.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Eh,
yeah.
So what is this going to become, like 1984, where the corporation runs you and you go like this? That's the blow up side. But if we, the people, um, are able to own that money, and the velocity of money can stay within our group longer, okay, before it comes to the higher, to the owners, and I would say to the investors and stuff like that, then we would have a better society. So let's take it a step further. Why don't we just become all owners, and let us enjoy the investment of the capital production. Now that's a new idea that certain people have been touting. Let's take Norman and our friend in upstate New York. That there's this thing called binary economics,
Well, yeah,
and
that's right.
and
That's That's yeah,
that's
Ashford, Bob Ashford, and
yeah,
Norman
Robert
Curlin,
Ashford
and
and
Louis Kelso.
Louis Kelso and
He's
Norm Curlin. Kelso got ESOP law passed, and you were around that time with
yeah.
Senator Long and the
Senator
president.
Long carried the idea, yeah, very
Right.
strongly, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
he was
and it
Senate
was
Finance
with
Chairman.
yes, and it was with President. Who was that president?
I'm not sure the president, the Secretary of the Treasury was William Simon.
It
So I'm
was
not sure.
William
Was it
Simon.
Johnson? I'm not sure.
It was the
It might have
actor.
been.
It was a
Yeah.
Republican actor. Remember him?
The Republican actor
Yeah, he was
Reagan.
a famous actor.
Reagan. Yeah,
Reagan, there you go. So
yeah.
amazing, because Reagan did have one understanding. He wanted the people to be able to pull themselves in bootstraps. So Kelso, and Norman and all these people convinced, Senator Long that this would happen. So he
Yeah, he
comes
carried
running
it.
in,
He
and he
carried the
goes,
idea really single-handedly almost in the Senate, and then
yeah,
yeah, right.
and
And it
that was
got
the
a lot of
beginning.
traction. I'm not sure where it stands now, but it would be interesting to bring it up.
Yeah, well, see, that was a beginning formation of what Norman and Bob Ashford are trying to do with binary economics, and that's that people need to own the capital production. Now, I
Wait a
have a
minute.
little
Wait.
different design.
Say that again.
That people need to own the capital production. They need to own the new robotics. They need to own the technology that is taking their jobs away.
And
Because if everybody doesn't have a job anymore, how are they going to earn income?
have you gotten around yet to reading Thomas Piketty?
Yes,
Have you got it?
yes,
Yeah. That's
yes,
his
yes.
theme. That's his theme that is being his book is being read by the political leadership of the world, I think, with
Yeah, but he
chagrin.
doesn't have a mechanism like Robert or Norman or
Well,
myself.
that's a different
Yeah,
proposition, but to bring the idea up is something.
it's
That
a start. It's a very
right.
important start.
Yeah. And you're
We have
playing with a very big idea. Yeah.
Yeah, but through good design, if you do it and you implement it in a way, and I'm an exponential entrepreneur now. I call myself that
I
because,
know. I think we got a graphic up to that effect.
yeah,
I'm not sure, but yeah.
besides a social entrepreneur and all the other hats that I wear, but this is this new time. Things are happening exponentially,
Yeah.
and I think I could put up 10,000 units in 3 to 5 years to do what we're doing right now. It's talking and
Hmm.
setting up
Yeah,
good
that's what you've sort of
mechanisms.
got a view of,
Yeah.
and to work on a cooperative basis,
Yes.
sort of
Yes.
taking the model of Mondragon or something like that.
Something like that,
Or
but I do have I think a better hybrid. I think that all humanity as
mhm.
people, when we put it in a pile, should own all the intellectual properties. It shouldn't be held by one corporation.
Why
And
only intellectual property? Why not all the capital assets that exist?
well,
I
let's
mean,
go that way,
have
okay?
that.
Because if
It's
you own
all
it,
owned,
yeah,
but Bernie Sanders is getting huge. They're going to be reporting today huge followings, and his major theme is that it's all owned by about 1/10 of 1%. All the benefit of the exponential growth and the increased technological basis of the productive process that increasingly needs less and less manual labor as it has been needed to get production in the past. That theme is one that ought to be addressed. Doesn't seem to be, but there's sure a big uprising around the fact that there's not enough buying power to clear the market of the very good, liberating things that are coming out of the laboratories and out of the exponential increasing capability. They can't be realized because there's not enough buying power in the hands of
right,
the
right,
masses of the people to clear the market. And
yeah,
that's a
and that
that's a
said,
conundrum that the system is confronted with.
right,
Yeah.
and I've heard some really absurd things like on NPR. I say, how did this guy get an even airtime? He says everybody should just get $10,000. Well, $10,000 would have a nice infusion into the market because 70% of the GDP is purchasing power. But what you really need is what billionaires and how, excuse me, billionaires actually make the money. And that's through their dividends, okay? And we have to have a way to be able to have people to have ownership and for corporations to pay 100% of their profits out and then borrow back from the people. And the one that Norm is touting with binary economics, they want to democratize the Federal Reserve. And
Mm-hmm.
that site is called cesj.org.
Mm-hmm.
Very good site, lots of information there if people want to go to that site,
Yeah.
cesj.org.
Yeah.
And there's a free ebooks there that you can learn about capital homesteading and things like this. But before we can actually even get, I believe, democratizing the Federal Reserve. By the way, they bailed out the banks without even telling Congress when we were putting that $700 billion package to bail out the cars and the banks and everybody else out. They were bailing out the banks at $16.6 trillion.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's that's what you're too young to remember. Ev Dirksen, he was a
no, I
famous
don't know.
senator. I don't know, it could have been in the 50s from Illinois, and he
Mm.
had a bit of a twang for being a Midwesterner. But he said, well, here in the Congress or in the world, you take $1 million here and you take $1 billion there, and it finally adds up to real money. Yeah,
Well,
it was
think about
funny.
it,
Or Ev
$16.6 trillion
Dirksen.
dollars
Yeah.
being because that's how bad the economy had gotten. The banks were completely with zero money. In fact, they were told that when people go, if we don't do this deal, when they go to the ATM in the morning, there
In the
will be no
morning.
money
Yeah,
there.
right, right.
And it will be worse than the depression
Yeah.
was back in the day. So they infused. The Federal Reserve says, okay, here they pushed a button at 0.1%, and didn't even tell the world because that's how bad it was. I mean, that's how
Mm-hmm.
messed up they had gotten the economy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So look, if you can bail out the banks at 16.6 trillion, you look at a $2 trillion economy like the United States was back in the figures of this when it was set up in the book, and it comes to about $7,000 per every man, woman, and child. Whether you're
Mm.
rich or poor, black or white, pink or purple,
Yeah.
everybody would get that $7,000. Now, you wouldn't get it in cash to put into your pocket. And you
Mm.
say, I got this, I'm going to invest in my hot dog shop. No, that's not how it would go. It would go something like this. You would get a ability to invest in the company that you worked for. If they would insure you, it would have to be insured by somebody that believes that that investment would be a good investment, like a reverse mortgage. It's insured, okay?
Yeah.
So you have this insurance that insures these investments. So you can invest in like Dominion Power, and in New York it's Con Edison. So you would have in forward earnings, you would pay back what you borrow with a slight little bit of interest for that insurance program, and it would be processed through the banking institution, which then they would go to um, the Treasury and say, here's the investment of Mr. Neskis, and they would borrow the money, and then I would invest it in the companies, and the companies, you have to change the laws a little bit, would give a total payout of that borrowing in dividends, and then come back and borrow it again, and you would pay that back in forward earnings. A child
Yeah.
being born today would make $1.6 million in dividends, 465,000 in savings, with a retirement of $46,000 a year. Now
Mm.
that's extraordinary right there, because now they actually have skin in the game. The other part of that, they would change some of the tax laws. Like, let's say a family of four, the first $200,000 you wouldn't pay any taxes. After that, they want to have a flat tax. So whether you're a billionaire or a working sap, you're going to be paying after the first $200,000 whatever the flat tax would be. A very fair way, because right now billionaires only pay 15% for their dividends, while a working person pays between 25 and 28%.
Mm-hmm.
And this is
That's
something,
absurd. Yeah.
yeah, it is absurd. I mean, the whole thing is absurd. The
Mm.
taxes, everything that we waste our money and our time doing, all that fear stuff could be changed by a program like this. I have it, a little bit different, but we won't go into that until I'm ready to launch
Well,
it. We'll talk
you're
more about
bringing up a big thing because
it.
in the world, the material world, what Lewis or some of the people were trying to get over is the fact that you want to have a system. What gives advantage to those who have past savings or accumulated
Right.
wealth is they've got an ability to put up collateral that then can be brought into purchasing, let's say,
A business.
a productive capital asset or
Right.
something,
Yeah.
and they can be relating it to not just the past savings, but to the future earnings of
Right.
the investment. And that's where the growth comes, and that should be extended to everyone. But for that to happen, most people don't have anything to put up
No,
because
and
they've
that's why
been.
binary economics
So
is
what?
such a
But
good
what
system.
to recognize that
Hmm.
future earnings of the economy? Just think how much progress we've made since 1900 when we had horses walking around. There's a lot of progress, the growth, and all that sort of thing, and you got to set that up for the people to be able to do that. And he proposed, in order to do that, you would have to have another institution in the federal structure next to the Federal Reserve that he would have called the Capital Diffusion Reinsurance Corporation. And he was arguing to him. This was he wrote a book called The Capitalist Manifesto,
Manifesto,
as
yeah.
opposed to the Communist Manifesto that a lot of people from the left would take exception to the term. But he was trying to bring that up, and he got support for it from a lot of people. But you would set that up as an institution that would be like setting up a reinsuring capability of the federal system to insure the insurance industry,
Right.
because
Right.
the insurance industry is dealing with the various levels of risk, and it would be very carefully monitored, but they deal with the various levels of risk. They finally got over into swaps and derivatives to deal with the risk. But if you could get it down to where there was insurance of the insurance industry by the
Right.
government backing it up, then it would open it up to make it safe to have major investments made in the name of the individual in order to tap in to the future earnings of what is evolving, and that would be something that could begin to build a source of income to the masses of the people by something other than their wage or labor input to production, which was the trend could be seen was coming more and more to be the result of technological instruments, including cybernetics and robotics and so forth.
Right.
And you could get it to everybody, have a bigger scale of investment capability
Hmm.
that would be that could be partly a private sector thing, that could be part of a means by which income buying power could be distributed to the masses.
Right.
And
And I
that's
don't
an
want to get too deep
idea
because we're going to
that
glaze
could
over these
be,
people in economics here,
that could be, no, but that could be included in the economics thinking
Right.
of people. We just did a program about the Left Forum, and
Hmm.
they have a very strong bias against the idea of private sector at all. It
Well,
should just
yeah,
be
I
all
know,
in the
but
government.
the point being, look, keep it simple. Let's, because those fine points have to be worked out, obviously, okay?
Hmm. Well,
But
that's a pattern.
the pattern and the simplicity is that people have to own the capital production.
Now,
People
how do you
have to
get it to them? They haven't been
well,
able to.
like the process that I'm doing
Okay,
is
good
that they
talk.
all
Yeah.
become
Okay.
owners right away. All the
How?
businesses, well,
Yeah.
I'm doing it with all the businesses that we own, and we start just like Mondragon, but the dividends are going to be buying more businesses. So next thing you know, we've bought everything. Basically the people now own everything, and the corporations are owned by the people again instead of just a few people. And this has been a problem. There was a guy that I was speaking to earlier, and the book, the title escapes me now, but he says you're describing exactly what this guy wrote about in 1940. So it's been going on a long time. And that is when I sit, let's say I'm Coca-Cola chairman, I sit on your board and you sit on my board, and we tell each other how much we want to make and how many, you know, stocks we're going to get, and we all shake, yes, yes, sure, this is what you. So basically, a few people are sitting on all their corporation boards. They're going to this little club called K Street, which is the basically the place where all the people do their writing of the bills and then present it to Congress, and they buy off these congressmen by saying, hey, your wife is a smart person. Why don't she come to work for us as a lobbyist? And when you get out, there'll be a job for you here, and here's the bill. They don't even write bills anymore. These corporations write the bills for them, and this has been going on for a long time. And it's not just the Republicans, it's also the Democrats, because it's the same bird with two wings. They make sure that
The same bird with two wings.
Yeah.
It'd be funny a bird with one, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I never thought of that. That's
they always hedge their bets.
Yeah.
Because they're business people.
Yeah.
I mean, even Trump said, "Look, when I paid you some money, I expected that that you did my bidding." And that's why he's not accepting any money. I don't believe that Trump has any legitimacy other than that he's a ranting person, talking about, instigating the fears of people.
He's living out of reality. He's living out what do you call those shows? Television.
Reality show.
Reality show. It's called a reality show.
Yeah.
And he's doing it with great aplomb.
He knows how to push buttons.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Right.
And I saw him so disingenuous, just very disingenuous, say, yeah, USA, USA, and then he goes like USA, USA, and then everybody goes USA, USA, like he knew that was what they were going to say.
Well,
but he was so disingenuous about saying it because he was going like, you guys are puppets, okay? And I'm going to make the world better. I can build a wall. If anybody can build a wall.
A big, beautiful wall, 10 feet higher, Mr. Vicente Fox.
And I'm gonna make Mexico pay for it. That was great.
but it would be seen almost like Buster Keaton or Comedy Central or something like that in a way. But he pulls it off. I mean, it's pretty amazing.
He's touching the nerves of the fear of people.
Right.
And in the deepest part of our brain, we have this thing called the amygdala, and that when things were really bad, we paid attention. So anything that's fearful, like in news or anything like that, we like So they know how to hold our attention.
Yeah.
The other harder part is the frontal lobe, which is what we developed as Homo sapiens became Homo sapiens, and that takes a little bit more ingenuity and expression and talent to be able to reach that part of the brain. And I think that right now the kids are getting it. They really are understanding it. And that's why Bernie Sanders is doing so well with the youngsters.
Yeah,
because,
it's amazing, isn't it?
They don't want this. So what we got to have is a fundamental way to get everybody as an owners. I think I have a plan, and I'll be introducing it through a book, in a 2-series book as well, and in a reality show to boot. But the point of that is that in 3 to 5 years, we could have substantial change, and this is like the beginning wave of the storm. When the storm builds way out there and starts producing those 50-foot waves, when it reaches, let's say, the Hawaiian Islands, it just shoots up and curls over, and that's going to be what's going to happen, hopefully, for the masses. And it's going to be good, because it's either grow up or blow up, okay? Either we're going to find our fundamental groundwork and we're going to become successful human beings into a new culture of speciation, which we don't even know what that's going to be.
Well, you're really talking big stuff when you talk about, I think I agree that might be it's hard to imagine that, though. We've been here 200,000 years, I guess it's understanding, 10,000 generations, and what we're saying in a certain sense, it seems to me, when they talk about like Ray Kurzweil and DeMontes and that kind of thing,
right,
they're basing it upon an exponential increasing technologically oriented productive capability that is growing ever more every year, every time frame. A higher percentage of the world population can be seen to be what would be called in modern terms a have, as opposed to a have-not.
Mm-hmm.
And throughout all of the human record, first of all, we had a very limited capability to provide. You couldn't get, in the old times, there just wasn't enough capability to have everybody have hot water, or everybody have
Right.
water,
Yeah.
or the
And when we
things
have a
now,
a
or
growing
electricity.
population.
Electricity had to be
Yeah.
invented, and
Yes.
the
Yes.
steam engine and the printing press and all, and it was like a gestation. You're gestating in the womb for 9 months, and you're not born until 9. So we've been gestating in a in a scarcity context. I think there's about 37 trillion cells in a human organism. Isn't that something?
Has it
I
been
think that
10,000
no,
generations now? How many generations, Harold, do you think?
no.
Is it?
Well, I don't know. The best rough estimates, without going into the details, people go in details, is that we appeared in evolution about 200,000 years ago in
Okay.
Africa. And so if you figure 20 years, that'd be about 10,000 generations. And what we're proposing is that we may live in I suppose others have thought that, because
Mm-hmm.
they'd be living off not just necessarily, but it was limited. You couldn't get in a car and go 300 miles down the highway in a couple of hours like you can. You couldn't
Right.
travel, you couldn't do anything. You were so limited in what the capability was. It was emerging and it was growing. And now it's got to, and you're saying this is the defining generation of
Well, I
10,000
think this is the
generations
beginning of it. I don't know
where,
if it's defining. I really don't. I
no,
want
but
to say
in
it's
evolutionary terms,
yeah.
you would be. There would be
Okay.
this
Okay. I see your
generation,
point there. Yeah. Yeah.
10,000 generations. This was the generation we've been born into, or
Mm-hmm.
us, or they, or the thing, where there's a qualitative transformation, like we're coming to the end of that womb-like existence, and we're transcending the scarcity as
Yes.
it has been politically seen throughout the human experience. It's no longer necessary. In fact, it gets in the way that people aren't able to realize the good life. They just don't have enough ability to be able to take part in it. But if you
Right.
get them all taking part in it, there could be a liberating thing
Oh, so much so.
that would usher in what, I just going too far maybe, but Stephen Jay Gould and Eldridge, and that they're talking about the new does appear in evolutionary terms.
Yes.
So
Yes.
we may
Yes.
be coming to the end of 200,000 years of a context of human development based upon growing ability to have each of those cells. It's 37 trillion, I think. 37 trillion cells in a human trillion.
And
I
we're
think it's
just
about
really understanding that now about
cells
these
in
cells.
a human
Yeah.
organism, and you want to have every one of those cells operating maximally like a gigantic jam session.
Not only that, but we're
And
understanding
we may
how
be
they
coming
work.
into that now.
Yeah.
We could have lived in the 6th century.
Yeah.
It would take 1,000 years to invent a tack. And everybody's sitting there mired in a historical gestating situation. And we're coming, perhaps, now, that's what's being suggested by some of the futurists, Fuller and others, the major thinkers. We may be coming into a time where there is enough for all, and you don't have scarcity as an ability for the assumption by which you build your institutions.
Right.
Or your
Right. And
thought pattern.
this is a very important stepping stone to that. But now keep in mind, Michio Kaku described man as man 0 to 1, then 1 to 2, and then 2 to 3. And the most dangerous
He's talking about
time,
the universe, yeah.
the universe, right?
Yeah.
And most intellectual civilizations, he said that. And by the way, we're 0, right? We haven't been to 1.
Well,
Man, 1 is
but
like
he's
when.
thinking on a planetary scale.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
let
a
me
universe
explain
scale,
this
yeah.
thought. This is very important
All
because
right,
it
if you
means
want to spell it out.
it really relates to what we're talking about. 0 to 1, 1 being that we have reached that level of capability in the practical sense, that education is free, it's no longer it's a cost, it's a right. There is no more hunger. We have
Yeah.
control of our energy and everything like that, and everything is beautiful. So 0 to 1 is the most dangerous times for most civilizations, and most civilizations do not make it to 1. Man 2 is when we're going and controlling energies of the sun. Man 3 is
Yeah.
the universal wormhole thing. But my
Those are all
focus,
projections into the future
yes,
beyond
but
the
my
point
focus,
of
if
the
I may,
singularity.
yes,
It's being
my
prepared as a
focus,
singularity now.
right. My
Hmm.
focus right now is to get man from 0 to 1, so we can
Let's hope we can
enjoy
make
that.
it.
Well, it's not that far away. If you look at what's coming out,
Actually,
I mean,
actually, if you were to listen to Fuller,
mm-hmm.
that idea is, if you're talking about the capability, you're not talking about the reality. We didn't have the capability 1,000 years ago.
Right, right.
You
Not only that we have
understand
the
we have
capability,
the
I'm talking about
capability.
making it into the reality, Harold,
Well,
and we can do this. We can
well, you're going
actually
to get hung
experience.
up on all the politics
No,
if
you
you
don't
do
get
that.
hung up on that. You shift
Well,
out of all
humanity has
those
been hung
hang-ups
up on
and
that.
you create through, like Fuller said, through good design, a system and a mechanism that transcends politics, that transcends trying to take money away from the wealthy of accumulated wealth, but to recreate more wealth and to make everybody owners and have abundance. See, most
Well,
people
yeah,
are
that's right.
always trying to take it away from the rich, or let's just dismantle the Federal Reserve, and they're all hating each other. Why don't we come up with a good design that doesn't take away from already accumulated wealth, which doesn't attack people, but through good design creates a civilization that can own the capital wealth, the capital production, and transcend from the capable of transcending scarcity into the reality
Well, that's
that we
that's
have,
interesting.
and that can happen, and
Well,
it can
that's a
happen now.
yeah, that's the thing that's always been called woolly-headed idealism thinking and everything. But that's a point. But the point is, you couldn't have done that no matter how much you wanted to project that. Let's say in
No,
the 4th century,
no, you
there was
couldn't do
no
that.
way.
No,
You
no,
can't come full term.
but we can do it now. So
Well,
let's
yeah,
not.
but
I
the
mean, it's
point.
nice to talk about what we couldn't do, but I'm the kind of person. I'm kind of like Trump, you know. Hey, I can do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We can change it today through good design and through good systems. The youngsters don't want to know about, oh, you know, what happened back in the 4th century. They're living in the now. They want to know, how can I have this abundance with all this potential that's out here?
Well,
Okay,
the path, the responsibility of leadership is try to perform
you're
the
not going to get it from
understanding
the
of how.
leadership. The leadership is owned by the corporations, by
Well,
all the people that are you know, on K Street
this
doing all
thing
the
that this thing
propaganda
that
and stuff.
Mr. Bernie Sanders has pulled off is amazing. That it's
Well,
raising
he's
this kind
speaking
of a
to
thing.
that. He's
Yeah,
speaking to that. He's
yeah,
saying
but it's
that
yeah.
this is a sin. The accumulation of wealth is a sin. And the problem is, and Ray Kurzweil said this to one of your fellow uh, people that you interviewed. He says, "Look, man, you shouldn't patent anything, because having a patent is like you know, a license to steal." What's going to happen is that all these patents, like medical and stuff like this, has to be owned by the people, so people aren't raped. Okay, and they have to have that, and that system has to be designed and made available to the citizens of this world. And you know, the fellow that made the passport for citizen of the world, he's passed now.
Yeah, gosh darn it, great guy. Yeah, sorry, I just can't. It skips my mind. Great guy. We've done three or
Yeah,
four or five programs with him years ago.
we have
Yeah,
to have a passport for the
world citizen number one.
right,
Yeah.
and we have
Damn, I
to.
can't remain. You can
Yeah,
remember. Yeah,
it's
well,
not
great
Davis,
guy.
is it? What was his name?
Yeah, Gary Davis, wasn't it?
Gary Davis.
Gary
Okay.
Davis, great guy. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I mean, those are the kind of,
Funny and
yeah.
really bright. Yeah.
We got to think of everybody, like the Zeitgeist movement that wants to share
Yeah.
all the assets equally. We didn't get to talk about Ray and Peter, but Peter's
Yeah. We
just a
got 5 minutes.
fundamental
We got
individual.
5 minutes left, so get
Okay,
some of
for
it
very
in.
quickly,
Mm.
you know, he's got these two books, you know,
Yeah.
and they're to read them. That's all I have to say on that point. But Peter is kind of fed off all these kind of thoughts, and he's now created SpaceX, and they're doing exponential growth with Kurzweil. Both of them are great thinkers on exponential growth. it's very important to understand these systems and mechanisms that will bring us to the new reality, to bring us to that man one where we have abundance and we can celebrate life instead of being in fear all the time that somebody's
What
going
do
to
you?
blow us up.
I don't want to get beat a dead horse. I don't know, but I'm saying, as I understand it anyway, there are people who know the expert. I don't know anything about. I don't know a lot about anything. I know a little something about a lot of things, systems, pattern recognizing.
Right.
But I do believe, if you look it up, that it's something like 99.9. I don't know how far out it goes of the species that have existed in the universes and the planet, let's say, have gone extinct.
Right.
That's
Right.
the pattern. That's the pattern.
Well, it's a pattern. It doesn't have
no.
to
That's
be
the pattern.
pattern.
They
Okay,
they
look,
no,
every
but that is
200
the
some many
pattern.
years, 200 million years or so, our Earth is hurtling through the universe, and we go into certain, extinction processes, whether the reversal of polarities or
Well,
people
those
have
are
said that
natural occurring
yeah,
things.
natural
But
occurrences.
we
So
now
if
have it
it
at the hand of the institutions and the assumptions and the institutions and the reality created by human consciousness, to the point where I just bring it up and it's there and it's for the first time, and it's not been the case.
well, it should be mentioned
We've
that we
been
have the capability
let
of
me make
blowing
the
ourselves
point, if
up.
I may.
Yeah,
We've been
sure.
protected in our impotence at
Hmm.
the level of weapons. And the weapons, apparently, from the modeling, this is something that should be up and really on everybody's desk. They are, and they keep growing, species lethal in their power. They can wipe out the entire Homo sapiens species if, in a spasm of irrational hatred, which has been our want over the environment, they can wipe out the entire Homo sapiens species. I do believe that is correct. If
Yes,
that is
that's
the
correct.
case,
That's
that's a
correct.
new reality. We couldn't do it in 1900. We were impotent.
Right, but
But
I
we're
think
not
that
any
that
longer. On
I
the
think
other
that
side,
reality is
on the other
accepted.
side is the
Yeah.
growing number of people who in the collective capability are
Hmm.
able to be seen to be halves has also passed the 50% mark. And both of these events were reached at about the year 1970. And
Hmm.
we've been living in a world like that, including on the positive side, the transcending material scarcity since about 1970. We don't have to, the point is, we're already there. Because you're
Yes,
talking about
and in the
capability.
capable
It's
forms,
not
we're
something
there.
we have to get a
Right.
tax cut or something in order to get there. We're there. So it
Well,
should be
we're
realized that that
there
is what
in the
is the
capable
reality
forms,
at a
Harold,
level of capability.
at a level of capability,
Yes,
but the
right.
reality
Well, that's
is, and
different.
this is
Yeah.
where you kind of like just wipe it kind of
There's only
over.
a
It's
few
okay.
seconds left. You want
Yeah, the
use
reality is
haiku.
that we have
Haiku.
to have it in reality. We have to have it so people can really have the capability of ownership, and we can do it. And the future is better than you think.
Okay,
Read the
listen.
abundance. Look at the book Bold.
There you
And
go.
Peter
Systems
Diamandis
thinker,
is great, and
exponential
you're
entrepreneur,
great, and we're
peace
all going to
founder.
see each other at the
Okay,
top.
thank you for viewing. This is Steve Neskis down in Virginia Beach, and you got a couple good thinkers there behind me on the screen, Ray
Yes, we
Kurzweil
do.
and DeMontes, and there are others. Thank you for coming back again tomorrow. Thanks, Steve. We'll be in touch. Please tune in. We're coming back again tomorrow, and thanks for every year in production of this dialogue. Okay.
Yes, I thank you.
Until tomorrow. Thank you. Okay, I guess that's it.